welcome all. In this video, we'll see handling elements part 3. As part of this video, we'll discuss about handling drop-down using select class, handling drop-down without using select class, and then we'll see helper methods to write handle drop-downs very easily. Okay, so we are going to discuss about drop-down in this video. Okay, let's go to the application which we are going to see. So this is the same application, demo.automationtesting.in/register.html. Here we have so many drop-downs. Then observe that skills, country, date of birth, year, month, day, these are all called date drop-downs. When you click here, you see you have set of options to select. Any one of the options you can select from this drop-down. So the same way country also, right, and year, month and day. So we'll take any one of these things and we'll try to automate, means we'll try to select any one of the values from this drop down. Okay, for this let's go to Eclipse. So we'll create a class, new class, we'll name it as handling drop down using select class, and I'll check this checkbox public static environment to show in my code. So this is the one. So I'll take the same code from one of my previous classes. That's it to launch the browser. Now we'll go to the application again and we'll try to inspect the skills. Okay. Inspect. You see that? What do you mean by select class we are discussing, right? First, whenever you see a drop down that will have the tag called select, first we need to understand that element. Okay, so this is a select tag. How we have input, button, anchor, div, all these things. The same way you have one of the tags in HTML called select. When you use a select tag, that will become automatically drop down when it renders the information on the web page. Okay, so when you expand this, you will have one more child tag called option. You have so many options. Each option contains one drop down value. You see that first one is select skills, Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, Analytics, Android API, something like that. The same thing can be seen here. Option, select skills, option, Adobe InDesign, option, Adobe Photoshop, Analytics, Android API, same thing. So select to display this element as a drop down, and the drop down values will be mentioned using option tag. Okay, this is the typical select tag, means drop down. So when I hover on the select tag, you see that the skills is highlighting. So the same way, if you try to inspect country, you see that country also select tag. Inside this option select country, option Afghanistan, islands, Albania, Algeria, something like that. Okay, now if it is a select tag, how you will automate? Means if it is a drop down using select tag, then how you can automate that? So for this, we have one of the classes called select in Selenium WebDriver. We have a class with the same name. Say what is the tag name we have here? The same way we have a class. So before that, first I need to find this element, right? I need to find this skills. Yeah, ID equaled skills, capital S. So we have a ID for this. So I can straight away use ID locator to find this element. So let's go to the Eclipse. So the same way, first I need to find that element, web element. skills drop down is equals to driver dot find element by dot id. What is the id? skills skills. So I found that element using id. So from that element I need to select any one of the value. Now the class is select. You see that arg dot openk dot selenium dot support dot ui is a package. From that package you can select class. Select. I can give a reference like skills is equals to new select, and it will accept. What it will accept? This constructor will accept. You see that add argument to select of web element. It will accept a parameter called web element. What is that web element? This is the drop down. Which drop down you want to automate, right? This will accept web element called the element which we are going to automate, from which drop down we want to select value. That web element you need to pass here. So this is the syntax. Select some reference is equals to new select of that particular web element. So now I can work with that drop down. So we have three ways, means three different ways to select a value from a drop down which is having the select tag. Okay. So here the first one is select by index method. Okay. And the second one is select by visible text method, and the third one is select by value method. We have these three different ways to find or select a value from the drop down. Okay, if it is a select tag. Okay, now how you can use the first one? Forget what I do. Select by index. So you need to take this reference, select class reference, skills dot select by, you see that index, and this index accepting, that is deselect, select by index, int index. So you need to mention index, means you need to mention the integer value. So what do you mean by index? So go to that application. Each option will have an index. Okay. So whenever you say index, index starts from the 0. So here 0th index is select skills. The first index is Adobe InDesign. Second index is Adobe Photoshop. Third is Analytics. Something like that. If you give 0, it will select skills. If you give 1, Adobe InDesign. So something like that. If you give 10, some value will take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 means it will select C++, something like that. Okay. So first I'll try to give 10. Okay. Simply provide 10. That's it. This is the information you need to know. Anyhow, you need to find that element using that web element. Now here the new thing is select class. After creating a reference to that, you need to use select by index. Index accepts index value. So now we are done. Now we'll try to run and see whether it is selecting the 10th index value from that skills dropdown or not. So it is navigating there. You see that it selected C++. The 10th index value is C++. So that's how you need to select the value from the. So now I'll give, I'll take one more, 0, 1, 2. If I give 2, it should select Adobe Photoshop. So I'll try to change this to 2 and we'll run again. And we'll verify whether it is selecting the value or not. You see that it has selected that Adobe Photoshop. Okay, this is perfectly working. Now we'll see the second method, select by visible text. Okay, skills dot select by visible text, and you see that string aux0 means it will accept a string. What is that string? Okay, first we'll see what is that string. So index means starts from the 0 and it will not look into this what is the option here, just counts it 0, 1, 2, 3, something like that. But when it comes to the select by visible text, this is what visible text. Adobe, whatever you are seeing here, see, these are all the values which we are seeing in the drop down. Those are comes under visible text. What we are seeing the text, which is the visible to us. So you can directly give this value. So whatever you are seeing here, when you're directly giving the text, it will use the text to find that element and to select. So I'll take Android. So whatever you are seeing, capital A and DROID, Android. So we'll select the same thing. As it is string, I need to put in the double quotes, ANDROID, Android. That's it. Whatever you are seeing, the same thing. So first it will select that Adobe InDesign and then immediately it changes to Android. Okay. Otherwise, we'll do one thing. We'll pause the execution for 3 seconds. But we have seen thread.zip will pause the execution for mentioned time. Here I am mentioning 3000 milliseconds, means 3 seconds. Okay. So now I'll try to run this. Open. First it will take using index. You see that it is Adobe InDesign. Now immediately change it to Android. Okay. This is how it will use select by visible text. I don't know why it is still showing. Okay, control. Okay, still it is selecting using index Adobe InDesign and wait for 3 seconds and immediately changing to Android. So we'll try one more thing, APIs, and it will I will change it to 5 seconds. Now it will be very clear to see. Yeah, it took Adobe Photoshop and I observe. You see that it changed it to APIs. So as I changed it to APIs. Okay. Now we'll see the third one. Select by value. Skills dot select by value. Value also, you see that string aux. It also accepts strings. Then what do you mean by select by value? Here select by value means we have one of the attributes to the value, option tag. Option value is equal to Adobe InDesign, Adobe InDesign. Option value equal to Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. Option value equal to iOS, iOS. Most of the times this value name means its values value and the visible text will be the same. Excel, engineering, email, something like that. The same value will. Sometimes they will give you some 1, 2, 3s. value equal to 1, value equal to 2, value 3, value equal to 3, something like that. Sometimes their own value, but 99% this visible text, this value will be the same. But sometimes there is no value attribute, only option, CSS, option, data analytics, option. So value will not be there. The attribute itself will not be there for the option tag sometimes. So in that case, select by value will not work on that particular select drop down. This is one of the interview questions you need to remember. If there is no value attribute to this option tag, then you cannot use this select by value. Sorry. This select by value you cannot use. If you have value attribute and you need to give this value attribute to select the value from there. So I'll use this CSS. Okay, I'll use this CSS. Control. So I'll try to run. Before that, what I'll do, I'll put a pause here to see the difference. So first it will select this index 2, then APS, then CSS. So right click, run as Java application. You see that Adobe InDesign, then it will change to APIs. Now after 5 seconds it will change to CSS. You see that it changed to CSS. So by using these 3 methods we are able to select the value from a particular drop down, right? It is by using index, it is the visibility text which is I am seeing, and select by value is that options value attribute. If the value attribute is not there for an option tag, then you cannot use select by value method. If somebody asks if there is no value attribute, then I can use or not select by value. So if you do not have value attribute, you cannot use. That time only these 2 methods will be applicable for that drop down. Okay, this is all about automating a drop down using select class, and that select class only applicable for if this tag name is select. If this tag name is not select, then this entire thing will not work on that particular drop down. Okay, this is all about select handling drop down using select class. Now we'll see one more way, handling drop down without using select class. New class, handling drop down without using select class, and then public static void main finish. So I'll take this code from here, the same way. So till here it is fine. Now I'll take the same example. I'll take the same example skills only, but now assume this is not a select tag. You just feel that something else. Most of the modern applications for better rich UI, they are using some divs, div, something like that. Okay, in that case you cannot use select class. The reason is that is not a select tag. If it is select tag, it is very easy to automate. You can directly use select class and select by index, select by visible text, select by value methods. But suppose if that is not a select tag, then how? Just assume here this is not a select tag and this is not a option tag, right? So now somebody asks, if this is select tag also, I do not want to use select class. Okay, then how you can automate? That may be also one of the interview questions. That is a select tag, even though I do not want to use the inbuilt select class from the WebDriver. I need some normal coding, some logic. Okay, so now what we can do here is first we need to understand that element, right? So first what you can do, you will find this element. Where is the skills drop down? I'm talking about manual way, how you do as a human, how you can interact with that element. So first I'll find in my entire web page where is my skills drop down. So here it is. First I'll click on this, right? After clicking, I will look into this list which I am looking for. Just I'm looking for Java. Okay, from starting here I'm just scrolling, means I'm just observing, I'm searching from the value which I need. I'm just looking like this. When I found Java, after finding that Java, I'm clicking on it. So it's selecting this Java, right? So this logic you have to apply. You have to think this way to work with Selenium WebDriver. As we already discussed that one of the advantages, it looks like it simulates human actions, right? How I am doing here, first I am finding the skills and I'm clicking on that drop down. After that I am looking into this list. Whenever I found my value, I am clicking on that. So the same logic will apply to automate this. Okay, let's go to here, and first I need to find that element, right? I know what is that element, already found in the previous program, right? I found this. Now after finding this, I need to click on this, right? We did the same thing. As it is a web element, what I can do, skills drop down dot click. Once it is click, now I am able to see all these values. So I need to find all the elements, means more than one element. What we did, find multiple values. We have seen in one of our previous classes that using find elements method, right? So find elements. What is the elements? So here I have skills ID, right? So I'll use the same thing, hash skills drop down, skills, right? I'm finding that element. So if it is a parent element, we have child elements. This is what I can do, greater than symbol option, right? You see that each option it is selecting. We have 78 skills. You see that 7 of 78 means we have 78 elements in this. By taking this CSS selector, I can read all the values, means more than one element. So what are those 78 skills here? So what I can do, driver dot find elements by dot CSS selector, and I need to provide the CSS selector. Okay. Now where you can store find elements will give me list of web elements. Okay, we already seen that. List of web element. What I can give, I can say same skills. Okay, skills. Now I'll import from java.util. So I have list of values. Now which I am interested in this? I say Java. Okay, I am interested in Java to select the value. So now what I'll do, I'll use the for each loop. For each loop from each web element, right? I'll take one by one from the skills. I have 78. From the 78, I'll take one by one. So one by one, taking that, I'll say web element skill in the entire skills. So if it is a skill and it is a single element, first element, second, third, fourth, fifth, until it reaches 78, it will loop through, right? So as a means it will take one by one. First time it will take select skills, second time Adobe InDesign, third time Adobe Photoshop, fourth time analytics, and then Android, and then IPS APIs. The same way it will give me one by one. So first I need to check whether the coming value is equals to Java or not. If it is Java, then click, otherwise don't click. This is my logic. So I need to implement that. So we have web element called skill, and if you need to find the text of this particular element, as now it is web element. So but I need this text. If this text is equals to Java, then I need to click on that. So we have one of the methods called what? Get text, right? Get text. So I'll put this in a if condition. If skill dot get text dot equals, right, equals, if that equals to Java, then, right, if the value of skills get text is equals to Java, it will give me the text of particular web element. The first time it will give me select skills. So select skills equals to Java? No, then don't go inside this loop. And then Adobe InDesign, second one. Skill dot get text will give me Adobe InDesign. Adobe InDesign equals to Java? No, then don't go inside this. Then one by one until it reaches Java. Okay, sometimes it reaches Java here. See, if it is Java, skill dot get text will give me Java. Java equals to Java. Yes, both are equal. Then go inside this and then skill, right? Then skill dot click, right? That particular skill is Java web element. Then skill dot click. Then it will click Java. That's it. Once you find that, just break the loop. Break means it will not continue after the selecting the Java. Okay. Now this is the logic we implemented to select a value from the dropdown without using select class. If it is select class, if it is div, whatever it may be, what will change? This value will never change, but here only this value changes, right? After finding that element, I'll click on that, but here we need to find all the values, option tags, otherwise divs, whatever it may be. You need to find all the elements. I'll store into a web element of list, and I'll loop through that list whenever I found Java, means decide or what you want, the value which you want. Then if it's the same thing, then click on that. This logic is unique logic. If it is div, if it is select, if it is ul, lis, whatever it may be the tag, this logic is unique. No need to bother about that. If it is a select tag also, you can implement the same logic. Okay. Now we'll give a try. It should select Java. Okay. Now run as Java application. You see that it selected Java, but there is an issue with my application. That is the reason after selecting, it is the same thing. Actually, it should work something like this, but this is the issue with my application, but it is selecting the Java. You see the tick mark. That's it. In real-time application, definitely it will work, but here I have some issue. Okay, it's working perfectly fine. Now, if you want, we'll take one more example. What I'll take, country. We'll apply the same thing with the country. Country also having country's ID. So first what I'll do now, Let's assume I have written all these things. Okay, I have written. Okay, let me do for this countries. Okay, what it will change? Here it will change from skills to countries, and here I'll change it to countries drop down. Countries drop down, and countries drop down dot click, and then here also we have same option, but countries option. So what I'll do, I'll change this country skills to countries, and here I'll say countries, and I'll change it to countries, and then I'll make it country, CONTRY, country, and then country dot get text is equals to something like, and then country dot click. What I'll take Australia. I'll take Australia here. Right, same logic, only these two things changed. Right, run as Java application. What happened? It's not selected. Okay, we'll see what happened. Option. Working fine. Yeah, I'm not sure why it is not working. There is an issue with the application. So I tried with this one, year drop down. So this year drop down, and I need to find something 1919. Okay, so we'll give a try year box. Okay, so I'll say years drop down. According to that, I'll change this name, years drop down. Okay, issue with my application, there is a dummy application, years. We'll try to rectify that. So year. So we'll try with some other drop down. So Java application. You see that it is selecting 1919. Okay, it's working fine. That there is an issue with the country drop down. So this is working perfectly fine. The logic is there is no issue with this logic. Okay, you can straight away use this logic, but there is an issue with that application or drop down. Okay, now let's assume my intention is, so I have, as part of my application, I have n number of drop downs. Just observe that here you have 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so when I'm writing this logic, I have written 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 lines of code I have written for this single element to find that element and selecting a value from that. So let's assume if you have 5 drop downs, for 5 drop downs, 11 into 5, I need to use 55 lines of code for this. Do I need to do all these things? It's a best practice? No. So it's not a best practice. So how you can avoid this, writing this much code? Okay, for that we'll create an helper method. Okay, we'll create a helper method. We'll use that helper method to handle all those things. Okay, so let's create a helper method. So normally in the real time you will do it in the some other class. Instead of doing in the same class, we'll do it in the some other class. But as part of this, we not came into the framework level. So as part of this, I can create in the same class, no problem. Public static void, I'll say select drop down value. Okay, I am creating a method called select drop down value, simple single method. So here, what are the dynamic content in this? What is the dynamic content? So this year box, okay, this year box means this value, means the particular web elements, finding that web element value is dynamic, and that inside that this locator is dynamic according to this, what you say, web element, it will change, right? This is the first one, this is the second one, and the third one is the value which you want to select from that drop down, right? These three are dynamic. The remaining code is as it is same. So as these three are the dynamic, so we'll pass this information as a parameter here. Only I'll pass these three values, according to that this logic will work. Alright, so what are the values? String drop down, okay, then string drop down values, and one more is string the value which we want to select. So these three are, what do you say, dynamic values will change. So now what I'll do, I'll copy paste the entire logic from here to here, here to here, and I'll not get the driver instance. The reason is it is local to this main method. So in this situation, what we can do, I'll make it class level. I'll make it class level and I'll use the same instance. Okay, I'll use the same instance in all the methods. So here web element, instead of drop down, I can say drop down web element. Alright, this drop down web element dot click, and this year box. Right, what I can do here, instead of taking ID CSS selector, I need to follow a unique locator concept, whether use ID, whether use selector, all these things. So what I'll do, I'll make it XPath. Okay, I'll make it XPath, and this drop down I'll replace here. Right, whatever the XPath I'll give, that will be replaced here, that will be found using this XPath. I'll find this web element and dot click, and the same way I'll use the XPath only here, and I'll change this information, drop down values. Okay, so here what I'll do, web element value, I am giving some generic name, web element values. Okay, I'll replace here. In the same way, I'll say web element value. I'm giving some generic names. I don't know for which element I'll use. That web element value get text, that web element value dot click, and this value will be replaced. Right, now it became very generic method. Right, you need to get the first drop down web element and drop down web element dot click, and then drop down web element values. So drop down values I'll get here. I'll loop through each and every value. Whenever found this value, means this value I'm passing from here, this value equals to this value text, then that web element value dot click. That's it. I changed this logic to this method. Now I'll follow the same thing here. I'll comment this code, this 11 lines of code I'll comment. Okay, now what I'll do, instead of writing this much code, I'll use this method here. In this method, I need to give what? Drop down XPath, drop down values XPath, and value. From ID, how we can make it XPath, // and this is a select tag. If you do not know what is that, you can mention star, and inside this @ID is equals to, what is that, yearbox, right? And this is the XPath of that. So what is the XPath of second one is drop down values. Here the same thing, I'll copy paste and then /option, right? I'm converting the CSS selector into XPath. ID equal to yearbox, then /option, comma, what is the value I want to select? 1990. That's it. Okay. Now this much is enough. What's wrong with this? String. Okay, I need to close here. That's it. Okay. 3 strings. This is the one, and this is the one, and this is the one. Whatever we are passing here, those I am passing into this method. So I made it single line of code. Then wherever you need to select a value from the drop down, take this method, pass the 3 values. That's it. If it is 50 lines or 55 lines of code I need to write. Here how I made it, this 11 and then 12. 11 plus 5, 16 lines of code. Instead of 55 lines of code, I made it 16 lines of code. So we'll give a try whether it is working fine or not. You see that it selected 1919 here. They're working perfectly fine. Now, if you still feel, what is this? Looks very ugly, this code, I don't know what exactly this is. So you can make it more, this one. String year drop down is equals to this one, and string year drop down values is equals to this one, and then string year is equals to what? Drop down spelling typo. Okay, now I'll shift this to here and making it readable, more understandable. That's it. So what I'll do here now, I'll say year drop down, comma, year drop down values, comma, year. Right. When you look into this, you can pass this information from any external sources also. So as part of the single normal class, I'm passing from here. So select drop down value from the year drop down. I'm taking year drop down values, from that I'm selecting this year. That's it. More readable way. That's it. Run as Java application. You see that it selected 1990. That's it. So now according to your requirement, just change these 3 values. That's it. This logic will never change. If you want to see for the skills, okay, if you want to see for the skills, I will change only the skills. Okay, skills drop down value, and I'll make it skill. Okay, skill drop down values, and then skill. So I'm changing here. What is that? Skills, and then skills, I'll make it Java. Okay, I'm just changing these values. I'm not changing this logic. This logic is same. So when I run this, it should select Java now. So that helper method I'm using second time for some other element. You see that it selected Java here. Right, it's working. It's working perfectly fine, this logic. So instead of writing this much big code, I made it very single line of code. This is reusable method, helper method, we can say. Okay, that's all about how to handle a value from the drop down without using select class. Okay, so now we have seen handling drop down using select class, handling drop down without using select class, and we made a helper method to write this or made it simple, that entire code. Okay, that's all in this video. Thank you.